Hey, welcome back. In this part of the series, we are going to discover how ES6 improves code modularization. Let's get started by creating a module. Now, say we want to access that variable in our main code. That done, an error message shows up because we didn't link the module in our HTML file, so let's do that. As you can see, now we are displaying the first name variable from our main JavaScript file, which is named functions.js, even if it's not defined in it. That being said, such a practice could be the cause of a lot of problems because we could overwrite existing logic, especially when it comes to large applications where this kind of mistakes is more likely to happen, and that's where ES6 comes in to the rescue. To use ES6 functionalities to modularize code, we need to set the type in the script tag to module. Saving that, we get an error coming from the first line saying that the variable first name does not exist, which is true because we don't have access to it right now since we didn't export neither import it yet. Commenting the first line out removes the error because we are basically creating a new variable there, as the engine adds the var keyword automatically when we try to assign a value to a non-existent variable. So the main idea behind modularization in ES6 is to make everything within a module accessible only from the inside of it and expose only the necessary parts. To expose a variable, we need to use the keyword export right before the variable declaration or assignment. Actually, everything in a module is a subject to exportation, whether it's a variable, a function, or a class. So here, the variable last name and the function full name can be accessed from outside of this module. The variable first name, on the other hand, is accessible only from within this module. There is another method of exporting which is done by using the export keyword followed by the assets identifiers wrapped in a couple of curly braces. Furthermore, we can export assets under other names using the as keyword followed by the new names. That done, last name will be recognizable in other files as lname, not as last name. Now, to import what we've just exported, we need to use the import keyword followed by the assets identifiers, the keyword from, and then the path to the module. As you see, we get an error message because we are using the keyword import in our main JavaScript file without adding module as type in the HTML code. Adding that, we got our code working, and there we go, we exported last name and full name as lname and fname from the myModule file, and then we are importing them in the functions.js file. Now, if we try to create a variable that has the same name as one of the variables that we imported, we get an error message telling us that the name is reserved for an existing variable. That being said, we can change the name of the variable we've just created or use the keyword as to set another identifier for the lname asset. So here we have lname imported and assigned to a variable named last instead of lname. Furthermore, if we try to change the value of the imported asset like we did earlier, we get an error this time telling us that we can't change the value of last because it's a constant, since every imported asset using import is assigned as a constant. So to change the value of an imported asset, a bit similar to a setter in OOP, we need to create a function that is responsible of updating private values. Hence, we first need to create and export a function that changes the value of lname from within the module. Then we need to import it and just use it like we do with any regular function in the main JavaScript file. We can import everything exportable from a module using the asterisk symbol as in the name instead of picking them individually. My module here is an object which contains all the exportable assets in that module. Sometimes we can come across a case where we need to export something we imported from another module. To do that, we can use import to import a name and then export to export it, or we can merge the syntax by replacing import with the export keyword, and that way we are importing and exporting the name variable at the same time. Sometimes one variable or function can be the only or most frequently imported asset from a module. That said, we can mark that variable or function with the keyword default. Now to import it, we can use the same syntax with the exception of the curly braces. Actually, we can use any name we want and it will work, because the engine knows that we are referring to that certain function, since we used the default keyword in its definition, which gives us the choice to get rid of the name of that function for a more concise code. We can also do an explicit export by using the name of the function, which is essential in this case, followed by the keywords as in default. Now, to import both the default and the rest of the variables, we need to specify a name for the default variable, a comma, and then the rest within a couple of curly braces. You have to keep in mind though that we have to always specify the identifier of the default variable before the rest of the assets. Sometimes you may be tempted to import something only if a certain condition is met, but as you see, that creates a problem because it's not allowed. Well, not until ES 2020 aka ES11 is released. So now import returns a promise, therefore we can use it as a function and set the path of the module as an argument and handle it using then like we usually do with regular promises. The argument of the function set to the handler is an object that contains every exportable asset from the module. We can also use the async await syntax if you're not a fan of handling promises with the then handler. And this is it for this part of the series, so make sure to subscribe and I will see you in the next one.